Right now, right, I've started recorded. So let me just get started. I hope you can see my computer screen. It's very full. My computer is, it has got a lot of things. So I'm going to search here. This is the folder I'm going to use. Right. I hope you have the document. If you do not have this document, you must have them. And you must have them in one folder, right? You have to create a folder so that you put this document, breads, tax, and also consolidated. Yeah, I don't have another document because I was not given. So first, I'm just going to open. You have to open a consolidated document because that's where we are going to work on. Let me just allow other people in the waiting room so that they can join us. Right, I have allowed them. Right, I hope you can see this document. Okay, I've accepted. Thank you very much. I hope you can see my screen, and I also hope that this is the same document you have opened on your side. So you have to study the document. We have columns from A to L. That's the columns that have got titles from customer up until invoice price. But however, we need to use code to populate information in this spreadsheet, right? So that means we can able to automate a task on Excel, right? If you check on your notes or the emoji you were given from UNISA, there's a certain code that you were given, but I have already put it through so that you will use it under the document I sent to you called code 2. So I want you to go again to that document code 2. I'm going to open it from this side as well so that you can have a view of the document I'm talking about. This is the document code 2. Right. I hope you have it on your side. As there's someone who have joined, can you please mute your mic so that at least there's no distraction. Right. First, this document, there are still people waiting. All right. This document have got two functions. If you check anything that is represented by these curly brackets, you can see these curly brackets. It's a function, or we call it a procedure or a method. So this one, the first one, from here up to here, it's one function. This is the function we were given so that we can able to load Excel sheets from the folder we have. So what I want you to do, because we are not going to discuss about this function you were given, it's there, but I also use it. Actually, in this instance, from this point, you can see that this is just a declaration of variables. So I want you to copy this whole function, the one called consolidated, right? Up to here. Do not copy from this point, that is where it says calc sub consolidation. We don't want to use it now. So I just want you to copy that. You can right click and say copy. Right click and say copy. Do not copy the title where it says sub consolidated. Don't copy it. Just copy from where it says dim fname list up until here where it says end sub. Do not copy the other title, which is bolded here. We're going to use it later on. Right, so you can minimize, then you go to consolidated. Sorry, I'm using Microsoft Office 2010. It's a bit older, but it's performed the same functions as 2016. It's still fine. Whatever you are going to do is going to apply to whatever you're going to do there. So I hope you have a developer tab, this one. Let's say you don't have this developer tab. What you need to do is just file, then you go to options, then you go to customize ribbon, then you check here under main tabs, you tick it, then you say, okay, it will appear, developer, this tab, because it's the one we are going to use. Now, we need to create a procedure that is a macro. So you need to click macro, right? In this instance, you can even give the macro the name of your choice, that you want. But for me, I give it a name called sub procedure, but sorry, consolidated. That's what I give. So you can even say activity 4.3 if you want, right? Or you can create it as consolidated. Make sure that you follow the rules of creating a function. Then you say create. Macro name is not valid. So it has got a dot there. A dot is not allowed. It must be underscore. Right. Then let me say cancel. Create again activity 4_3. Then I say create. So the moment I say create, this window comes. If I go to my taskbar, you can see that there is a window which is showing the spreadsheet, and also a window which is showing our Visual Basic application. So we are here. So you can see that here we have sub activity 4.4_3. Maybe we have used consolidated, it's still okay. So what I want you to do is you need to right click so that this dialog comes in, then you say paste. Right. Once you paste, you would see that there is a code which is showing in red. This is because that when we copy this code, because this is an A4 document, you would see that the code was spilling onto other lines. So what we just need to do is to make this code appear on the single line. So what you just need to do first is to go where it comes here, where you put your cursor here after the word Microsoft. That is the first line which is showing red. Then you punch delete, not backspace. Delete on your keyboard. Punch delete on your keyboard. Don't punch backspace. Punch delete. So the moment you punch delete, you will find out that it brings the previous line to the same line. Then you go again after this comma here. Make sure that when you punch delete, there's a space here in between Microsoft Excel. Then after you've done that, I want you go again to the end of this line where there is a comma. You punch again delete so that the other sentence comes in the same line as F name. Right, that's the first thing. So after that, you can see that the line becomes long if you scroll on the bar below. Then we go to the next. You can see that we have a red line which is after. I want you to put your cursor after the word copy before this red line of code which is showing red. It means that there's an error with that code. That's the reason why it's red. So this line is supposed to be on the same line as week's current sheet. So what you need to do is to punch again, delete, right? Then you can see that the red disappears. Then you go again to this line where it says message box. You perform the same procedure, delete. You can see that it then we give it that. Then you can see that it's still giving us a red line, message box, count. Let me see was the problem there. Message box processed. File name. Okay, let me just use delete again. Right. So it means that you need to delete another double quote because there was a quote which comes in after that. So you just delete, then it comes to one line. Then you can see that from now, we do not have any red line on this code. Right. So we can click this to say save. The following cannot be micro free book. Okay. Right. The issue why we have this notice which says the following features cannot be saved in a macro free workbook. It because this is saved, sorry, this is saved as normal spreadsheet, not a macro spreadsheet. To continue with macro free, click yes. So we do not want to use macro free. We just say no. What you need to do is, once you said no, it gives you another link to save it. So in this case, I'm just going to say consolidated answers because the dialog comes in so that I save it in different name. So on your dialog box, you just need to say file name, consolidated answers, or you can give it another name, not the same as consolidated because we have a file name with this name. So that it indicates that this is another file you have created. Then save type as, you need to look under save type as and select Excel macro enabled workbook. Then you click on it. Then once you click on it, then you say save. Right. In this case, now you can see even the file extension here on my cursor, you can see that it's now a macro enabled XLXM. Right. We can also test the code to see if it's working. That's the normal way of testing the code. Once you finish something, you need to test whether it's working so that you do not have problems in terms of debugging your code. So you can see here that it's just only one sheet code consolidated. Now we want to create a button. A button has got what we call a click event to say that once you click it, something happens. So under developer options, you can see on controls here, there is insert. You need to click it. If you point here, under form control, you can see buttons, you can see control box, you can see checkbox. But as we do not want all these controls, what we need is this called button. So you need to click on it. Once you click on it, if you go on the spreadsheet, you can see that there is now our cursor changes to a plus. So you need to, because our data is supposed to be coming from A to L. So you don't need to create your button around this point because it might distract your data. So you just need to go maybe further here from N or somewhere here. Then you click and hold so that you appear as if you are drawing. So I'm drawing, as you can see, then I leave. Then once I leave, this dialog box comes in, is to assign the button click event to say, if we click this button, what happens? Then we need to assign it to this function called activity 4.3. So I click on it, as you can see. Then you can see that it's now here, activity 4.3 is there. Maybe if you save your function with a different name, it should be appearing like this, both here and also here. Then you say, okay. Right? We might need also maybe to change the text inside the button. You see, I come here, I point inside where there is text. Remember, this is this sign, it's for moving the button. For example, I might move it here, I might move it here, but I don't want to move it. I want to edit this text. So I come here so that you see my cursor changes. Then I click inside. Then I put another name. I then say Lord. I'm not saying God, but I'm saying Lord, meaning to say we want to load some Excel sheet there. Click outside. You can see now it's a button. So I'm going to test it. To test it means I click on it, then it gives me an error here. Then the error is caused by this because we have copied end sub. There are two, so we need to delete it under the code. Then after that, you click save. Then we go to our sheet. You can see that our button is still clicked. Then I click again. It looks like if I click, it's not responding. Let me just try to find out. Usually, if it is like this, it might still process because it has an error in runtime. So once the error is in runtime, what you do is you close this Visual Basic application, close it. Then you say it will stop command debug because it was in runtime mode. That's why it says it will stop debug. Then you say, okay, right? Then let me just try to click it. You can see now it's working. So don't be surprised that when you correct your code, it gives you an error. It means that sometimes you cannot process other things whilst that code is still running on the background. Okay. So you can see now it's working. Let me just cancel so that I explain. It says no file to merge has been selected. If we click the functions were given there, you were given it on your notes. It's available there. It's just to import. So if you, as I said, your files should be in the same folder. So if I click here, you can see that it opens a dialog box to say choose within the range. If you check my address bar, it's showing me that this is the folder inside here. All right. So in this case, I need to merge. I need to import some Excel sheet into this consolidated. So I'm going to click bread. Maybe I just want to do it at once, not to say I import one and click again and import another one, click again. Can do it one by one, but I want to do it twice all the same time. So I click bread. Then I want to click kex. But if I click kex, it then deselects bread. If I click bread, it then deselects kex. So for you to able to select these two, you go on your keyboard and punch control. Don't release it. You just punch control key, the one called CTRL. Yeah, on your keyboard, you see it. So I punch it. Then I click kek. You can see here that I have selected two files. And here the file names are appearing here as two files because I have used control to do that. Then I say, I click open. Then look what happens. This is the message. Merge Excel files, processed two files, merged two worksheets. Then I will say, okay. So these are our worksheets. So this code were given by the tutors at UNISA. So it doesn't give much of the marks. What marks you are going to get is for implementation of the code because they've already prepared for you. So the next thing, it's what is our own, where we need to create something. So now you can see that our consolidated has got what? It's got 3 sheets, consolidated, bread, and kex. So from the question, I also hope that you have the questions for this with you closely. I have it. Let me just try to look. It looks like I did not save them inside here. But the first one was asking us to populate the, let's say, to populate the details of customers up until invoice prices, taking data from bread, cakes. I think you have another additional file, which is essay something. I was not given that file, but for now, I'm going to use these two. This procedure we are going to use is the same. If we have even 3 files, even if we have 4 files, even if we've got 5 files or more, right? So the next thing is that we need to create a procedure. Now, this is the procedure I have created. There's a message. Well, essay delights someone, but remind me that it's called essay delights. I did not receive that file, but I hope I will get it by end of the lecture. But I will still going to explain how it's gonna work as I receive it. So this is our own function I've created, which will not be given by tutors at UNISA. It means that we need to create it, right? For now, I'm just going to explain a bit about this. I have introduced a variable called my range because I want this variable to contain the range I will be using each time I want to populate data. I also create a variable called last row. I also created a variable called my count loop as integer. I also created a variable called sheet input as worksheet. Mind the different data types here, because now if I have to type this code, it might take us time, but we just want to do what we call copy and paste. But let's say you want to change for the purpose of submitting assignments, you want to change this code, because it's a very long code I've created. You can see it from here. So it means that if we are to put essay sheet again, another one, it's gonna become a little bit more longer. So I'm just going to tell you the trick on how do you, because you need to create your own variables, your own variable names, so that at least there's a bit of difference rather than everyone to say my range, my last row, and right. All right, someone is asking, say, is it that we must copy and paste the code, or we might type in my phone or laptop? You need to use a laptop in this instance, because if it is a phone, it won't be working very well, unless maybe your phone supports what we call IDE, integrated development environment. Unless if your phone supports integrated development environment, then you can use your phone. But most phones, they don't have an IDE, which means that you cannot able to open a Visual Basic application on your phone. All right. So the cheaper way to do this, is just to copy this whole code. I say, do you want to change the variable names for that purpose? Because sometimes you might see that, I don't want my work to be similar to everyone else. It means you can do this, then you copy it, then you then go to Microsoft Word like this. Then you open Microsoft Word. This one, it's a word processing document. I hope you have it. Then I will then say paste like this. I just paste. This is an example I'm giving you. Let's say I want to change this variable name because it might not appear only here. So I highlighted this, then I say find, then I click. You can see where it's appearing if you say find. It's so many cases. So it means that if you are to manually change it, you end up having so many errors in your code. So to make it easier, you then say replace. Then instead of using my range, you can say a range object. Let's say I want to say it's called range object. like this. Then I click replace all. You see? So that means by then I have a variable range object. I've changed. So that's how you are going to do for the purpose of submit, so that at least there is a bit of difference. Where there is variables, try to make sure that they are different. But if you see that you cannot manage it, just use whatever you have because of time. Because actually, if I have to do code by code, we might need about 2 hours to enter all this code, explaining it one by one and debug it. But in this instance, we just need to copy and paste. So first of all, I'm just going to copy. Remember, now I'm on calc consolidated. I'm just going to copy this. Let me just do bit by bit. Then I go to here. Let me see. So I go under macros. We have a procedure we have created already, but now we need to create another macro for the purpose of this code. So in this instance, you can see that I have opened edit. This is the edit macro that it gives us the one we have created, the first one. So now we want to create a second macro. So if we go here again, okay, it's showing me that it's left with a few minutes for me to complete this. So if I want to create another sub procedure, I will go to my Excel worksheet, my Visual Basic application. So I then type sub. Every function you create, it should start with sub. Sub is a keyword. So in this case, I'm just going to create it as consolidated calcs. Calcs like this. Then I put this parenthesis. Then I close. The moment I close, you can see that it gives you a line to show you that this is now another procedure. If you may want, you may comment to say, you can give a comment. And remember, our comment starts with, you just put one open quote, then you say that procedure to consolidate bread, cakes, and blah, blah, blah. Remember, you also have the essay something. But for me, I only have these two, but I'll bring on the other one. So after that, you can see it's a comment, it's in green. So I then use Control V on my keyboard is just to paste. So it pastes this. Then I go to the next, I'm going here. Remember, I copied up to here. I did not copy this sub consolidated. I copy up to here. Then the next, I copy from this part where it says for each. Then I have to copy all this code. I copy again. I go to my Visual Basics. I then say paste. Don't worry about the red lines. We are going to solve that. We go again to the next sheet. In this instance, do not copy end sub, because end sub is already there. By the time we create a procedure, this end sub is given. So if you copy it again, it will give you us an error as it does before. Then paste, right? So as I say, if you see rows like this with red hands, it means that they are each supposed to be one row. So I'm just going to use delete to make sure that it appears in one single line. As you can see, sheet consolidated range. Let me see here. I hope we are following what I'm doing. Right. So you can see this loop. It should end with this row, and sheet consolidated dot range. It should end with my range. Then next range. Usually, when we are doing this, oh, I started on the bottom. Sorry. Let's click up. So let's start here. You can see there is a for loop here. I click, right? So this for loop should end here with row. Then I'm going to click here where there is end, is the same line, right? Usually, if you see, this is a for loop. So this code falls under for loop, which says sheet. So sometimes we always indent for keeping the neatness of the code. It's just for presentation. If you don't even indent, it's fine. It's not a problem. But to indent, it's also giving neatness of your code and readability again. And it also tells you that your for each loops ends here with next. That's where it ends. Then I go to the next again. I did the same thing. I hope you are following. Then I indent for neatness so that I can able to see how many loops I have in my program. Then here we go. There, I hope you are copying up. Make sure that your looping, it's ending with this row and close bracket. Because if you make mistake here, your code is not going to work. Then we come here. Then, right, here there's no red. We scroll down until we get to the other point where we have this. Then it says expected error. Why? If it says expected error, we need this bracket to close it. Make sure it's closing this because it's a for loop. Here also, I forgot to indent. Then here I indent. Right? I hope you are following. And you can see the moment you indent, there is some readability of the code. And usually where I leave some spaces here, it's meant for comments. So it means that I shall need to put a comment here. I shall need to put a comment here. Right? And I go to the next where there is red. Also, this is another loop again. I can indent it so that for readability purposes. Right, then I go here, there's red. I push it. Also here, I push it. Here we go. Then I go there. I go there again. Then I go here. Right. I shall need to put maybe a comment here as well. But make sure as you submit, don't just type comment. Write something to explain your code because the comment is meant to explain your code. So you won't be just saying, this is a comment, this is a comment, this is a comment. There should be some explanation, but I will explain maybe one or two. I hope the time will allow me to do that. So after I've done this, you can see now this is a procedure we've created. There's no error, there's no red now. And you can see the readability. I try to improve it by indentation. Right. Now, let's go to, I can also click save. I click save. Now it's not refuse because it's there. So now let me just go to my consolidated sheet. Here we go. I then come here, insert button, put a button here. In this case, I'm just going to click this. I'm not using activity. I'm using consolidated calc. It appears here, it appears here to assign to that button. Then you can see button 2. Then I want to edit. Then I just come here and say what? Populate. Then after that, what I next? Click. Look what happens. Look what happens. Right? My time here is showing me 1 minute. Let me ask Mr. K if I can have maybe 10 more minutes so that you can put comments. So stay tuned. Do not just go away because 45 minutes is lapsed. So I just need maybe 5 to 10 minutes to explain where you need to change your comments. All right. So let me end this now. If you have comments or questions, you have to ask in as I request for another next session.